The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC Vegas 31. We got Islam Makhachev taking on Thiago Moises in the main event. I think this fight is a little underappreciated, in my opinion. I've been seeing a little bit of hatred on Instagram for this fight as a main event spot. A lot of people think this is going to be a complete one-sided affair. You know, we'll be getting to my full thoughts on that fight here in a brief moment. But I'll say this now. I think it's a little bit of an underappreciated fight. I'm kind of intrigued into this matchup, to be quite honest. In the co-main event, we got Miesha Tate making her long-awaited return to the octagon, taking on the very tough Marion Reneau. I would say that's pretty much the highlight of the card. I was a big fan of Miesha Tate throughout the last decade. So for me to see her step back into the octagon as motivated as she is, I'm excited for that. Other than that, we do have some intriguing matchups throughout the card. We'll be getting to that here in a minute. We're going to recap UFC 264, the big UFC 264 card. Of course, things have been hectic with all that went on this past weekend with Dustin Poirier defeating Conor McGregor. I'm going to go deep into that UFC 264 card, of course, especially that main event fight. I'm not going to really go into any MMA news because I think really the majority of MMA news has been related around that main event. So I'm going to be talking about what's next for Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier. Briefly, as for Dustin, as we know, he should be fighting for the gold next. But I want to really go into what's next for Conor and my thoughts in that whole situation there. So no MMA news there. We'll be recapping my bets for UFC 264, of course, so stay tuned for that here. It's coming right up, and we'll have timestamps for all these fights. And what else? I do have my breakdown of the featherweight division recorded, so that will be up very soon. I'll probably upload that a little bit after this video, so I don't just bombard you with a bunch of videos, or maybe tomorrow, but that's already recorded, so that's going to be coming up very soon. I know I've been teasing you guys about it a little bit too much, so that will be coming up, and I'll be planning on recording my next division here very soon towards the end of this week, all right? So timestamps are there. So with no further ado, let's get into today's episode. So the big UFC 264 card, did it deliver? I mean, the main event, a little bit of an awkward ending there with the ankle break of Conor McGregor. We'll be diving into that main event fight here in a second. As far as betting goes, I did have 3 official plays. Let's get into those 3 plays here as we cruise through the card. We'll start with the first fight here. Zhalgas Zhumagulov takes out Jerome Rivera. He looked phenomenal in that fight. He was a heavy favorite going into it, and we saw there was a reason why he was that favorite there. Zhalgas is a very tough, well-rounded fighter. Jerome Rivera, he should be getting his walking papers from the UFC at this point. That's a good amount of 3-4 losses in a row. A little bit of a shame. Jerome Rivera, I do believe he has some talent, but just is not really able to put it all together in there, at least right now. So we'll see how he bounces back with this overall career, where he goes from here. In the next fight, we had Brad Tavares taking out Omari Akhmedov. We were on Brad here. I thought that Brad's been looking very good as of recently. We thought he'd be the sharper fighter going into the later rounds. That definitely was true in there. I thought Brad was a little bit more of the fresher fighter going into the later rounds, but not even just in the later rounds. I thought he was looking fresher and cleaner in there even in the beginning of the fight. So Omari really didn't show up, in my opinion. The split decision wasn't even necessarily warranted. I thought Brad handled business there, in my opinion. So Brad, keep an eye on Brad. Brad's been looking good. Jennifer Maia in a very tough fight with Jessica Ai. Jennifer Maia handles business there, but maybe you see why I'm not necessarily crazy about these high lines and these types of fights here. We thought this fight would play out closely one way or another. If anything, maybe the value was more on the dog there, even though Jennifer Maia is the better fighter. But that's why I just stay away from those types of fights personally. Dricus Du Plessis. I know I got to get that name down because he was even talking about it in his post-fight speech. Dricus Du Plessis. I don't know. I'll work on that there. But Dricus is a guy we definitely want to keep tabs on. This guy's looking amazing. Gets his second knockout in a row inside the octagon. Takes out the very talented Trevin Giles. Hits him with a nasty right on the chin there. Put him out. Followed up with some ground and pound. definitely excited to see him in there very soon. This guy looks like a Greek god, like a Greek statue. This guy, man, when you see him in there, you see him at in the post-fight press conference, man. This guy is really a specimen. So interested to see him in there again soon. Ilia Topuria takes out Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall was going for those Eminari rolls. He was funky in there like he normally is. Ilia Topuria is just on a whole nother level, though. He's a beast of a man. He's explosive. He's well-rounded. He was way too much for a guy like Ryan Hall. And the only way Ryan Hall was going to win that fight, in my opinion, was if he was able to get a hold of that leg and pull something off there. Otherwise, we talked about it. Topuria was going to be too much. And if anything, a little bit of a regret there that I didn't do something with Topuria as far as an official play goes. Of course, you guys know how it goes. We're always making bets here and there, so a little bit of money comes in. But he was in the minus 200 range, and I should have made that an official play, and I did not. Because I was a little bit worried about Hall grabbing a hold of a leg and whatnot, but I should have known better to really go in on that, because Topuria is just, he's a physical specimen that's very well rounded, and you saw how he was very cerebral in there, avoiding those attempts from Hall. So big shout out to Ilia, and keep an eye on him moving forward, of course. Michel Pereira takes out Nico Price, calling out Nate Diaz now. Michel is a very entertaining guy, always exciting to see him in there. Max Griffin takes out Carlos Condit. I thought that it came down to that third round there, and Max Griffin dug deep, got that takedown. So a little bit of a shame there that Carlos Condit couldn't keep the win streak going. I was really hoping for Carlos to get another victory there and try to get some momentum, get some big name fights moving forward. Of course, a legend in the game. Sean O'Malley takes out Chris Montinho. Where do I start here? Please, what was your guys' thoughts on this fight? Because I don't know, man. I thought that Sean O'Malley should have finished this kid, man. I know he was landing a crazy amount of significant strikes, but I really thought that he should have got the finish there. I know Chris was tough. He was walking forward. I would have liked to have seen Sean really step into some of those punches and really try to take him out. He was on the back foot. He was circling a lot. He did not want to take any shots from Chris. And really, from what I was able to see from Chris, I just didn't feel like Chris was a threat in the very least. The punches that he was winging were not impressive. And I know everybody wants to tap him on the back for going in there on short notice, taking the damage and walking forward and never wanting to quit in that fight. But at the end of the day, I didn't see any type of talent from this kid. The only thing I saw is that he could take a shot. Yes, he has a chin. But I don't know, man. Just seeing him get smashed up like that was not really... It wasn't pleasant for me to watch. I didn't really enjoy it, and I would have liked to have seen Sean just really put him out. I thought the stoppage was definitely respectable there. How much damage could this kid take? He gets the bonus, and he'll get another shot in the UFC. I don't know who he's taken out in the UFC, because I just don't see the skills there. Like I said, the only thing that he even showed was that he could take a shot. But again, I don't know what Sean was doing. I don't know why Sean didn't really... I didn't like the fact that Sean didn't really throw a lot more leg attacks to the head. I would have liked to seen more leg attacks from the head, because I think that would have been the shot that would have taken him out. More spinning heel kicks, more head kicks. He didn't throw as many as I would have liked to see him do there. So Sean O'Malley gets the victory. How about Irene Aldana? We know she's dangerous, man. Irene shows up, takes out Yana Kunitskaya. Keep an eye on Irene. She did miss weight, but that girl is very dangerous, very powerful, and she can give any fighter a run for the money in the division. So definitely keep an eye on Irene moving forward. Now we get to my first play here. Tai Tuivasa takes out Greg Hardy. I did have a smaller play out of my three on Greg Hardy. Got him at great odds, for what I thought was great odds, dog odds there, plus 135 range. I thought Greg Hardy would be the more explosive athlete, the bigger man. I would take him again at underdog odds, to be quite honest. I really would. Greg Hardy landed a very solid shot. He wobbled Tai a little bit, and he got overzealous, ran in, and he got caught with a counter shot. He showed his inexperience in there. This will definitely be a learning experience for him. But you would have liked to have seen him just, slow things down, because he would have been the more explosive puncher. He was quicker with the jab, and I would have liked to have seen that fight play out a little bit longer, and he made a big mistake, and it cost him there. So it is what it is. We get to my second play, another smaller play compared to my big play that's going to top the night off. But I did have Stephen Thompson to take out Gilbert Burns. I thought that Stephen Thompson would have definitely had the edge as far as the striking goes, like he did. There were some question marks with Gilbert Burns after taking the shots that he took against Usman, wondering how he was going to bounce back from that. But, what happened in this fight was the least thing I expected. Stephen Thompson is a guy that normally has great takedown defense, and he was not able to use his footwork in there to avoid the takedowns from Burns, and he got taken down 2 of those rounds, and it cost him. If you check the judges' scorecards, it came down to that 3rd round, and he got taken down, and Gilbert didn't do anything with it. As far as I'm concerned, Gilbert Burns' stock is going to be a little bit stagnated and maybe even drop a little bit. Dana White was not pleased. Stephen Thompson is getting up there in age, but a very disappointing fight for him, because usually he uses that footwork very well to avoid takedowns, especially from a guy like Gilbert. He was given those takedowns, and you don't normally see that. But Stephen's getting up there in age, and it is what it is, and we take that L there in the chin. And that brings me to the main event fight, which I want to talk about here for a minute here. Dustin Poirier takes out Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor breaks his ankle. This was an official play for me. It was my biggest play of the night. I took Dustin Poirier. You guys know I was on Dustin here. This was one of the tougher fights for me to bet on, man. I was really in an odd place going into this fight, and I want to tell you all about it here, because of course it was a 5-unit play for me, but you guys can imagine now I was down 2 plays going into this fight, a lot of drinks into this card, and you guys know I had a lot of money on Dustin Poirier. This was one of my biggest plays that I've ever hit. Thousands on Dustin. The line was so appetizing. As big as a fan as I am of Conor McGregor, you heard my breakdown. There was just way more avenues for Dustin to win this fight. I know Conor did break his ankle, but Dustin was in control of the fight. You saw him get the takedown. You saw him dropping the elbows. Now, if this fight would have went to the 2nd round, if Conor didn't break his ankle, I do still feel that Conor was a threat in this fight. Conor's always a threat in those early rounds. I mean, you see the explosive shots with the hands. Of course, he could land one and put Dustin out. But, it was Dustin that was really the aggressor in there. He was the one coming in, throwing hands. You saw McGregor ducking down and trying to close the distance, clinching up. It was really an odd sight. But to see that, especially, that little thing there. But overall, I expected Dustin just to be the better fighter. And like I said, it was a big fight. And for those of you guys that doubt the amount of money I put on some of these bets, go ahead, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll show you bet slips. If you want to see real bet slips, if you don't take my word for it, I'm talking about big money here on Dustin, man. And it was a very odd experience for me, because at the end of the day, I'm such a Conor fan, but of course you guys know money, overrides, being a fan of a fighter, because I was definitely rooting for Dustin, and I was sitting there, and it was just such an odd feeling. But when I saw that he broke his ankle, I was kind of happy in a way too, because I wanted to win. I wanted to get that money, but I didn't really want to see him get finished. I didn't want to see him get smashed up and TKO'd. I think that would have been a worse look. But again, now, so Conor breaks his ankle. If you look at the 13-second mark, 13 seconds left in the 1st round, Conor throws a leg kick that kind of goes high on the side of the knee of Poirier. When he steps back, you kind of see him do a little bit of a wobble. Okay, so after that, then he throws a teep kick to try to hit Dustin right in the midsection, and Dustin also kind of drops his elbow, and Conor's shin cracks right into his elbow. Keep an eye on that first leg kick, though, at the 13-second mark if you run it back. I think something kind of happened there, and then, of course, that second kick there to the midsection, it looks like something really happened there, too, as well. And for sure, at that point, the bone was definitely fractured, and I think when he pivoted to throw a punch, you saw it just give out on him, but it was already done for. Crazy sighting, right? We've been seeing a lot of leg breaks like this. Conor was slamming the leg kick to start the fight off, which was a pretty cool sight to see, after what happened to him in the second fight, come back and to work the leg kicks like that. I liked it, but it just seems like Dustin's one step ahead of him in there at this point. I don't know if we're going to see a 4th fight. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Right now, Dustin needs to be fighting Charles Oliveira for the title. That's the fight I want to see. I cannot wait to break down that fight for you guys, because it's an amazing fight in the lightweight division. Conor McGregor has options. Let him heal up and let him come back strong. And he might have a fight with Rafael Dos Anjos. Maybe he has the trilogy with Nate Diaz. Comment below. Who's next for Conor? Who do you guys see next for Conor? As far as the post-fight speech for Conor, I thought it was epic. I know that not a lot of you guys are going to agree with me. Some of you guys will, some of you won't. I love the tenacity. I love the aggression from this guy. This guy is sitting there with his leg dismantled, and he's still talking about fighting outside in the parking lot. He's still relentless. He never gives up. This guy's not, some guys would have been in there in shock and been worried and kind of piped down. Conor never pipes down. This guy is ferocious, man. This guy is like a character out of a movie, a bad guy. I love it. I love that, man. I know it's not for everybody. I know a lot of you guys didn't like the fact he's talking about the wife and whatnot. I just think that Conor, he is must-watch TV, and this is part of what it all is. A lot of you guys think that he's fizzling away or he needs to look to retirement. I think you guys are way off on that assessment. I think you guys are way off. He's still in the prime of his career. He's very young, and this is a guy that's going to be more motivated than ever, and you guys are putting him under the microscope for the fact that he's losing these fights to the best fighters in the world. Dustin Poirier is possibly right now the best active lightweight fighter in the world. We'll see what happens with Charles or whatnot. Khabib, one of the greatest of all time. The guy is an absolute animal. Floyd Mayweather, he loses a boxing match to Floyd Mayweather, one of the best boxers of all time in his sport. You guys, I want some of you guys to slow it down and really try not to be biased on what you guys are watching here, man, because you guys are going to learn very quickly when you see Conor McGregor back in there with these B-level fighters. You're going to see what's up, because McGregor will go back in there and starch those guys. I'm telling you right now, he will starch a lot of those guys. He's fighting the best fighters in the world. Okay, do not underestimate Dustin. Dustin is in his prime. Khabib was in his prime. Floyd was a little bit past his prime, but I don't even care about that. That was a boxing match. Come on, guys. So, people are throwing around these stats. Oh, Conor McGregor hasn't won a fight since Obama was the president, or he's won one fight against Cowboy Cerrone. You guys got to really be fair about the assessment of him. And if you're not, you're going to see what's up when he bounces back, when the UFC gives him just a little B-level opponent. He's going to starch him. And he's going to show all type of evolution with his grappling. You're going to see it. So that's my thoughts on that. I would personally like to see the Rafael dos Anjos fight. I would love to see that next. You saw a little bit of that beef there this past week of them talking in the back there, as Rafael was a backup opponent. Nate Diaz, you know how he is, playing games a lot with the negotiations. We'll see. Maybe Nate Diaz with the trilogy fight. I would love to see that as well. But you bet your boots Conor will be back. And, made a lot of money betting against him. But, this is what it's all about, man. This is all about business here. We're all about taking money in. So shout out to everybody that took that giant play on Dustin there. And overall, it was a slightly unprofitable event for me. And we'll take that one on the chin, and we'll bounce back to this upcoming card here. We'll make it a very profitable one. You guys know what the game is all about. And that's UFC 264 there. And any questions, comments, comment below. And with no further ado, it's definitely time to get into UFC Vegas 31. So as stated earlier, the return of Miesha Tate is definitely one of the highlights of this card. Islam, Thiago Moises, and an underrated matchup there. Jeremy Stevens on the card. Daniel Rodriguez, always an exciting fighter, throwing down there. Not the biggest of names, but a lot of exciting fighters. Unfortunately, we had a lot of fights fall through. Odie Osborne taking on Amir Albazi would have been a good fight. Don Madge is a guy I always like watching fight, who just has really been struggling getting a fight in there. Herbert Burns had to withdraw. Phil Hawes and Darren Wynn was a fight I was excited for. Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez, of course, was the main loss for the card. But now we get into the first fight. We got Rodrigo Nascimento taking on Alan Budat. And Rodrigo Nascimento is a guy that was undefeated going into his last fight. And he lost to Chris Daukaus there. And that was one of my biggest official plays that I hit in a long time. Chris was right around that almost that plus 300 range. If you guys remember, tried to warn you guys, this guy Chris is the real deal. Rodrigo, decorated grappler. This guy is a very, very polished jiu-jitsu player. He's working on his striking as well. He's a mountain of a man, coming in at the cap of the heavyweight limit. But again, he showed some holes in his striking, and Chris Daukaus was really able to piece him apart there. His bread and butter is definitely the submission game. We saw him take out Dontel Mays, and we also saw him get a submission there on Dana White's Contender Series. Now he's taking on this guy, Alan Budat, who made his UFC debut not too long ago, got starched by Tom Aspinall. Budat is a striker first type of fighter. So stylistically, Nascimento, I really believe he's going to have an edge with the grappling. And I think that's the avenue he needs to take here. I think he needs to go in for the takedowns, needs to push the pace, try to put Budat on his back. And I think that he may have an easy avenue for a submission win there. If Allen can keep this fight standing, we saw Rodrigo go through some adversity on the feet in his last fight, like we talked about. So wouldn't be necessarily shocked, in the heavyweight division if Allen could land some big time shots there and maybe do something. But at the end of the day, I like Rodrigo here. I think Rodrigo is going to bounce back with the victory, and I think he's gonna work the ground game and try to get a submission here. At least that's what that's what he should do, in my opinion. But again, both these fighters coming off losses, and they got to get something going here. But I think Nascimento is the guy at 28 years old that needs to get the train back on the track. He's a guy that has, more potential, in my opinion. And the next fight in the flyweight division, we got Francisco Figueiredo taking on Malcolm Gordon. Of course, Francisco Figueiredo, the brother of Davison Figueiredo, the former flyweight champion. Francisco, a guy that made his UFC debut against Jerome Rivera. We just talked about Rivera. He was able to control Rivera, really pushed the pace against him, was holding him against the cage a lot, showed to have a good amount of strength in the clinch and controlling Rivera there. And I think that is one of his strengths here. I think he's a physically strong fighter for the division. Malcolm Gordon is a guy that seems to have a tough time putting it together. He's a solid athlete. Coming off 2 losses, though, got submitted on the mat by way of by triangle. See right here we got that. Yeah, from was it Amir Albalzi, very talented fighter in the division. But you don't see a lot of guys getting sub, in the triangle like that these days. It's actually one of the more rare submissions. So it kind of shows a little bit of his grappling IQ there. Comes back in his next fight, gets knocked out on the feet by Asu Madarji. So again, Malcolm Gordon, a little bit of lower fighter IQ in there, in my opinion. He is an athlete, but I think that Francisco should be able to grapple with him, should be able to control him against the cage and work some type of tactics like that to pull off maybe a decision here. But then again, Malcolm has been having a tough time just making it through a fight in the UFC. So maybe Figueiredo starts to show us some wrinkles here in his game. We do know that he has power. Francisco does have some power. I do believe that. Even in that last fight, even though he was grappling very, very much so, he also was throwing some heat in there. You saw some potential for some power. So wouldn't be necessarily surprised if he gets a finish there. And you see him there with his brother, the former champion. I got to go with Figueiredo there. He's going to be pretty hefty favored here in that minus 300 range. Maybe a little high there, but he should come through there in that fight. In the next fight, we got Anderson Dos Santos taking on Miles Johns. I like this matchup right here. Both these guys coming off solid wins for their careers. Miles Johns is a guy that I was a little bit more high on, as he made his way into the UFC. This was a guy that has an extensive wrestling background, a little bit short and stocky, but he's very athletic. Training at a Fortis MMA, looked very good on Dana White's Contender Series as he got the contract. Took out Richie Santiago 2 years ago. Then he makes his UFC debut against Cole Smith and didn't really look as good as I thought that he would there. Cole Smith gave him a little bit of a hard time. He had that split decision victory. Then he loses to Mario Batista, a very underrated fighter. Fighting out of Arizona with all those boys over there, Cejudo and all those guys. I know he's put in time with guys like Cejudo, O'Malley, a lot of guys. He's been around the way over there in Arizona. An underrated fighter. Miles Johns got caught in that fight, and what did he do when he was facing adversity? He bounces back with a nasty knockout against Kevin Natividad, the tough Hawaiian fighter. And that was without a doubt the biggest victory of Johns' career. He looked phenomenal in that fight. So the momentum is very high here. So he's showing wrinkles with his striking. I told you about the grappling that he has. He has a solid wrestling. This guy could definitely take you down, sit in your guard, and pepper you up and win rounds. Anderson Dos Santos, almost 36 years old at this point. Well-rounded fighter. He could strike. Definitely has the submissions. We saw him pull the guillotine victory in his last fight against Martin Day. A tough Brazilian fighter, definitely has submissions behind him. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, even though he's 2 inches shorter. But I like Miles Johns here. Like I said, I was a little bit higher on Miles coming into the UFC, and I'm a little bit higher on him at this point right now too. I like the age that he's coming into compared to Dos Santos is 36 for the division, and I think that Miles Johns should handle business. The line right around minus 175 to 185, right around that range, creeping up to minus 200. Hopefully Johns keeps the momentum going and doesn't look like he looked in that Cole Smith fight, but I don't think that he will. I don't think that he will. Like I said, Miles Johns at 27 years old. Expect to see continuous evolution in his game, and I think he handles business. And, hopefully Miles Johns keeps the ball rolling. Got an intriguing matchup here. Khalid Taha taking on Sergey Morozov. Sergey, coming off a loss, took on Umar Nurmagomedov, the cousin of Khabib, the very, very talented, undefeated fighter who's going to be a problem in the UFC for time to come. So no real shame in that loss. Just want to run you guys through Sergey real quick if you're not familiar. This is a guy that was fighting in M1 Global for some time. He had a loss against Josh Reddinghouse, guy that's fighting on The Ultimate Fighter tonight. Bounced back with a rematch and got the victory over him in 2019. The fight before he made it to the UFC. Had a loss against Movsar Evlovoev, who you guys know I'm very high on. And, so just to give you an idea of the experience that he has and the level of talent that he's fought against. And he's handled business against a lot of these guys over there in M1. Was on a 5-fight winning streak before the Umar loss. And a guy that has shown that he could finish a fight. Haven't been necessarily super impressed with his striking. But 32 years old, this is a guy that, although you may not be so familiar with him and you may not seen all his evolution and his development as a fighter in the UFC, he's been doing it over in Russia. The time is now for him. He has the tools, he has the experience, and he needs to get this victory. He doesn't want to lose 2 in a row in the UFC. His only issue is he's fighting a guy in Khalid Taha that is an absolute beast of a man. He's just a grenade waiting to explode. This guy's striking is nasty. If you leave your chin up there, he will absolutely take your head off. Crazy power. Coming off a loss to a Ione Barcelos. We know how talented Ione is. Had that weird fight there with Bruno Silva. I guess it was overturned, right? He had an arm triangle choke. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. There was a no contest, and I think that was due to some type of I don't know if it was a performance-enhancing drug. I got to pull that article back up, but it was a little bit of an issue there. Comment below, or I'll throw in the comments again what exactly that issue was. Before that, he took out Boston Salmon. He was a dog going into that fight and just starched Salmon. Salmon dropped his hands, and he took him out there. The Nad Narimani fight, he was going in for the kill on the feet, but Nad was using the grappling to kind of nullify him there. He's been working on his takedown defense, and when he keeps it on the feet, he's a nasty, nasty fighter. 28 years old. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. I think that Khalid has a pretty significant edge on the feet. I like the advantage that he has there. Morozov, a well-rounded fighter, but I think that Khalid will be able to work his takedown defense, keep this fight on the feet, and I think he'll be the better fighter here. But Morozov is a very, very well-rounded, tough fighter. I could definitely see him keeping this fight close, and this is a fight that may go either way. But I will edge Taha. Sergey had his moments against Umar. He was looking tough in there, but when push came to shove, Umar took the back, got the choke on him there. Not saying Khalid is that type of fighter in the least bit, but this is a very exciting fight here, and a fight that you do not want to miss. Like I said, Khalid is can't miss TV. This guy, I'm telling you, especially with the right matchup, this guy will come out throwing bombs. But yeah, Morozov has his back to the cage. What will he do here? I like Khalid. And just to touch upon that line, like I said, Khalid right around a minus 175. Maybe a little bit steep against a guy Morozov that has his back against the cage and is a very well-rounded fighter. Maybe has that grappling element, but like I said, I think Taha has underrated takedown defense. Has been working on himself there, so Taha is the pick there for sure. All right, and the next fight, got a solid women's fight taking taking place in the strawweight division. Amanda Lemos taking on Montserrat Ruiz. You guys remember this girl, Montserrat Ruiz? This was the girl that took that fight on short notice against Cheyenne Bays and was just continuously putting her in that bully headlock and, judo tripping her down to the mat, giving her noogies, giving her some shots there. A lot of bad blood in that fight. Remember, after the fight, Cheyenne was still talking crap. And that was a really cool fight to watch in a way, because Cheyenne was a girl, when she got her victory on Dana White's Contender Series, remember, she was barking, she was yelling, she was talking crap, get up, she was throwing kicks, kind of really embarrassed her opponent in there. And it was kind of interesting to watch her kind of get embarrassed in her last fight. Although I am still a fan of Cheyenne there. I think she's a very tough fighter. But, I also became a fan of another fighter watching that fight. So, Ruiz is a girl that has some of the more decorated wrestling in the division, even though she's fighting out of Mexico, not necessarily known for their wrestling as much as other countries. They have some solid wrestlers, but she is a very solid wrestler. Whereas Lemos is just a nasty striker, so fluid, has so much pop on her punches, almost moves in a way like a male flyweight fighter at times, man. The footwork, the pop in her punches, man, very impressive. And she's been looking very good as of recently. Took out Lavinia Souza, finished her there. Took out Mizuki Anoa, and also submitted Miranda Granger. So showing her well-roundedness with the submission win there too. And then, of course, she did have that setback against Leslie Smith. Leslie's a big girl, and it just wasn't Amanda Lemos's night, but I truly believe she's been putting it together as of recently, and she's grown as a fighter. I think this line is very interesting. Minus 500, that's a little crazy. You guys know how I feel about a lot of these women's fights in general, but Montserrat Ruiz is a girl that showed she could wrestle. So what happens if she starts to get those takedowns and controls Lemos? Although Lemos has the jiu-jitsu game, and she's a girl that's shown that she's not incapable with the grappling, like what we saw from Cheyenne, who was just continuously getting taken down and showing to be a little bit inexperienced there. So I understand why Lemos is the favorite here, but that line is a little bit surprising to me. I'm not crazy about it, and I hope that this fight ends up being a good fight here. Obviously I'm going to go with Amanda Lemos. This is a girl I've been impressed with. 34 years old, probably right about in the prime of her career. Is going to have a 4-inch reach advantage, 4-inch height advantage, and she should get the job done. But be careful if Ruiz is able to get takedowns and maybe grind her out. Maybe she sneaks off the decision victory there. But an interesting fighter. Keep an eye on Ruiz moving forward. All tatted up, and she's a tough chick. She don't play around. But just keep an eye on that size advantage as well too. Big size advantage for Lemos. Daniel Rodriguez taking on Preston Parsons. D-Rod, very talented striker, tough dude, very cool fighter. I like this guy. I like watching him fight anytime he's in there, whether I'm betting against him or betting for him. This is a guy that's going to be an entertaining watch. Now he's taking on this guy, Preston Parsons, who's been pulling submission after submission off in the cage. Was that 4 submissions in a row coming into this fight? Did have that loss against Valder Arajo. Got submitted himself. Rewatched that fight. It's on YouTube if you want to pull that up. Got caught in that guillotine. So that was a little bit interesting to see a guy that's so talented on the mat get caught. I think he got in that guillotine. The way he got caught in it was a little strange. Although the opponent is a talented submission artist, but still didn't really like the way that looked. If you guys catch my drift, if you pull that fight up, you'll see what I'm saying. I shouldn't say that. Daniel Rodriguez is a guy that we've seen pull off the guillotine too, right? How about that standing guillotine that he pulled off on Tim Means? But although his bread and butter is the striking, is where I was going to go with that. But we've seen D-Rod pull off a sub like that. So if Parsons sticks his head in there, don't be shocked if D-Rod submits him. But I think that the route D-Rod's going to want to go here is for sure whoop him up on the feet. I think D-Rod has a significant advantage as far as the striking goes. I wasn't really that impressed from what I've seen from Parsons there. Parsons is still very young, though, only 26 years old, training out of a smaller gym over in Jacksonville, Elevate MMA. I didn't see necessarily the biggest of names over there, so hopefully he's getting the proper training, because D-Rod is a guy that he's trains over at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. We've seen him put in time with one of my favorites, right, Joe Schilling. I say that sarcastically, but we know he's worked on his striking with Joe Schilling, and he's been putting a lot of work with top dudes, and you see him over here at Syndicate MMA with guys like Sean Strickland and just a bunch of top guys over here. So a bunch of savages. So that D-Rod's putting in the work, and I like D-Rod all day in this fight. He's 14-2, coming off that victory against Mike Perry. Lost to Dalby before that. That was a very close fight. If he would have got the nod there, he would have been putting things together. At least a 5-fight win streak. No, even going back way further, right? So if he would have been on a big win streak, going all the way back to his Victor Reina loss. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It would have been an 11-fight win streak, but that Dalby fight was very close. And it actually was an underdog official play of mine. If you guys remember, I had Dalby there. I thought Dalby did enough, and I grabbed him a great line in the plus 200s, but it was a close fight. I'll give you guys that. D-Rod should get the job done here. Avoid the grappling game of Parsons. Work the striking, and I think D-Rod should be able to get his arm raised. All right, so we're creeping up now to the main card. Really enjoying breaking down this fight card, man. I enjoy getting these predictions out to you guys every single week. So once again, I do enjoy you guys tuning in. Please hit that like button for your boy over here. Subscribe if you're not already. Got a nice coffee over here. And what's better than talking fights, right? Talking fights, talking betting fights. I truly enjoy it. And we got a solid fight taking place here in the featherweight division. Billy Quarantillo taking on Gabriel Benítez. Billy Q coming off a tough loss against Gavin Tucker, who since took an L himself, Gavin Tucker, and didn't have the best showing of himself. So that loss there is not looking so good right now. But before that, Billy Q was really handling business. Took out Kyle Nelson with that knockout. Took out Spike Carlisle. While Spike had a lot of momentum going into that fight. Took out Jacob Kilburn. And then, of course, his victory over Quamela Kirk on Dana White's Contender Series, who Quamela Kirk has since had a big victory in the UFC. So, Billy Q, don't forget about what he's done. This is a guy training out of Tampa. I know he trains a lot with Matt Frivola, the steamroller. And Billy Q is a very talented grappler, has shown to have power in his hands. He's a good striker. He's working on his overall game. Now he's taking on Gabriel Benítez. Gabriel Mugli Benítez is a guy that is a nasty striker. A very unorthodox striker, that tough Mexican type style, a scrappy type of guy. He comes in the southpaw stance, throws heavy shots. How about that nasty knee that he threw up the middle, took out Justin James? Hopefully Justin did not wager his entire purse on this fight. I don't know, maybe he kept it under the radar. This guy might have a little bit of a gambling problem. Hopefully that wasn't the case. But Justin James took a tough L there. But Gabriel Benítez is a guy I have been impressed with. You take a look at his losses too. I mean, he's learned from it. Omar Morales, very talented striker. Sadiq Yusuf, nasty fighter. Remember, he was beating Sadiq Yusuf in that fight before getting caught as well. So just to show you what he could do when he's in his groove. He's a nasty striker. He's working on his overall game. He's 33 years old, creeping up to his prime. And when you put in the amount of time that he's put in over at AKA, you're going to see big time improvements. Mugli is not a joke. This was that loss that Billy Q just took against Gavin Tucker. Hopefully this motivates him here, and he's going to come back with the fire under his butt, and you're going to see some evolution in his game. You're going to see him maybe sharpen up his skills a little bit, because if he doesn't, I do think that Mugli can throw some bombs on the feet and he'll look to take you out. So, if Billy Q's not on point here, he can be finished. I like Benítez to win the fight. I do think that Billy Quarantillo is a very competent opponent and could easily show up here as a dog and deliver. I think he's one of the more live dogs on this fight card, but I still do like Gabriel Benítez to win the fight. I just really have liked what I've seen from him. Benítez will have a 1-inch reach advantage, even though he's 2 inches shorter. And I like Gabriel to win the fight. Would like to see maybe the line a little bit closer, but I get it. He's coming off that big knockout. His stock's high. People understand how dangerous he is on the feet, and he's been working his ground game as well. I like Gabriel Mugli Benítez. Good. Mugli Boogly. All right. We got Rodolfo Vieira taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. We know Cormier loves to say that name, Stoltzfus. Breaking down some tape on Dustin as of recently. You know, that loss that he had against Kyle Dawkins. Of course, we had Kyle Dawkins on the show. Great guy who has a big fight coming up. Dawkins is going to be taken on. Give me 1 second here. Dawkins, real quick. Dawkins is going to be taken on, slipping my mind real quick, Kevin Holland. Okay, I knew he had a big fight coming up. How about Kevin Holland versus Dawkins? I will be getting that breakdown video out to you guys very soon. I think you guys know which way we're going there. Dustin Stoltzfus is a guy. He was on Dana White's Contender Series. Had that awkward victory where he was kind of getting tagged up, and then he went for a nice judo takedown, kind of like a sweep takedown where he put a lot of pressure on Joseph Pfeiffer's arm as he tried to brace himself, and it snapped. It snapped out of place. It was nasty. But he was getting tagged up in the beginning of that fight, and Kyle Dawkins was really able to control him against the cage there. And, you know, excuse me here. Get this up over here. You know, Dustin Stoltzfus was really lackadaisical in that fight. And I really was not impressed with him. And I want to explain something to you guys. You know, I was actually really close into picking Dustin here because Rodolfo Vieira, the showing of himself in his last fight was absolutely horrendous against Anthony Hernandez. Vieira is a world-class jiu-jitsu practitioner who comes in like an absolute bodybuilder, has so much muscle mass on him, and he gasses out. And what he does is he just tries to bombard these guys, getting them down to the mat, and tries to pull off that early sub. He barely ever leaves the first round. You know, he's went to the second round once. I think he may have went to the third round one time. Let's pull that up real quick. And this guy doesn't leave the first round very often. I mean, you're seeing all these IBJJF World Jiu-Jitsu Championships and ADCC Championships on his resume as well. But as far as grappling, at the end, he went to the third round here. Other than that, first. So he went to that second round there twice. But, I mean, this guy doesn't leave the first round often. And when he did against Anthony Hernandez, he ended up getting submitted by an arm and guillotine choke. That's not a good look because that shows you how exhausted he was because this guy is so talented. On the mat, he should never be getting subbed like that. What happens if he does not get Dustin out of there in the first round and then Dustin takes over? Dustin is, in my opinion, a way more talented and way more accomplished jiu-jitsu player than Hernandez is. So what does that say? You don't think that Dustin can get the submission against Vieira, the world-class jiu-jitsu player? Why not? I believe Dustin may even be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a talented grappler who's been under the radar for some time. But here's the thing. I rewatched that fight against Kyle Dawkins, and I was absolutely not impressed with Dustin. He had no urgency in that fight. He sat against the cage, and you know Vieira is going to be pushing the pace, leaning on him. I'm going to take Vieira here for that point there. The line is off. I truly believe the line is off here. I'm hoping maybe Vieira can be motivated here after that tough loss he took and stop hitting the weights, work on the cardio a little bit. How about you work on the cardio? You don't need all that muscle mass. Just work on your takedown technique. You know, a little bit confused on his take for the game. But then again, who am I to say anything? This guy was undefeated going into his last fight, and he's a world-class grappler. Who am I to judge? I do believe that if he just didn't hit the weights as much, lost a little bit of that muscle mass, worked on the cardio, worked on his technique with the takedowns and the wrestling, I think he could be a little bit more of a dangerous opponent. 31 years old. The black belt hunter. I do believe Dustin is a black belt here. So is he going to go out and take out another black belt? I'm going to take him to win this fight. I would not be surprised if Dustin all of a sudden now shows up, looks to be in phenomenal shape, getting in work with Sean Strickland, one of the more underrated fighters in the game. I don't know if I can say underrated because people are catching on, but a guy that a lot of people think is the black sheep of the division there and the middleweight division. This guy is black with the black horse, whatever you want to call him, but he might be coming for his belt, Sean Strickland. So you see him getting in that type of work there, and you see him looking in shape like that. That might be an issue for Vieira. So just keep note of that. But again, from what I just saw of him in his last fight, can't go in on him there. So yeah, I'm gonna take Vieira. I know Vieira will probably get this fight down to the ground in the first round, and what will he do with it there? Yeah, and this was Vieira getting submitted by Anthony Hernandez. So if he does gas out, we might see something like this. In the next fight, we got Mateusz Gamrot taking on Jeremy Lil Heathen Stevens. Jeremy Stevens coming off that before fight TKO victory where he finished Jakar close, gave him that shove, man. That was kind of messed up, really, right? I'm all for the animosity and all the beef before the fight and getting into each other's face, but you can't be injuring the guy where you can't even get in there. That was a little bit much. And you could tell when he gave him that shove, that was a nasty shove. And Jeremy Stevens has that explosive power, whether he's shoving you, knocking you out with his fists. I mean, Jeremy Stevens is a ball of dynamite. And, but he has a tough opponent on his hands, man. Gamrot is a guy who's been grinding it out at American Top Team, training with some of the best fighters in the world. You see him here with Poirier. He's been getting it in with Poirier. And like I said, grinding over at American Top Team with the best of them. And that's an issue for other fighters when you're fighting a guy that's been putting in work like that at American Top Team. A guy that was undefeated at 17-0 when he was coming into the UFC, fighting over there in KSW in Poland. A guy that's extremely well-rounded. A guy that's coming off a nasty knockout victory against a very tough opponent, Scott Holtzman. Gamrot is a guy right now, gamer, who's I think is cruising into his potential. Confidence is going to be extremely high in this fight. Jeremy Stevens is a guy that for a lot of times really needs to kind of knock you out. A lot of times, he's going for that knockout. Otherwise, he'll take the L. But again, also fighting top level of competition. He's 35 years old. He's always grinding it out with Dominic Cruz over there in California over at Alliance MMA. As of recently, things have been a little bit tough for him. But look at the competition. Calvin Kattar, Yair Rodriguez, Zabit, Magomed Sharapov, Jose Aldo. And he had moments in all those fights as well. And before that, knockout victories over Josh Emmett, Duho Choi. He can knock out anybody. If he lands a big shot on Gamrot, he can knock him out. And Gamrot's UFC debut, he had a very tough fight against a very underrated fighter, and Guram, the Georgian fighter, lost that via split decision. It was a very close fight. Could have went either way. I like Gamrot here. I think that Gamrot is very well rounded. He's younger, he's fresher. I think he'll be in better shape, and he'll be able to mix it all up to pull off the victory here. I do believe that. But Jeremy Stevens, you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire when you take on a guy in Jeremy, so be careful. You see the very talented Polish fighters here in Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Gamrot. It's a very exciting fight, man. Anytime Jeremy steps in there, it's an exciting fight. So comment below, man. I know there's some Jeremy fans out here. Who's taking Jeremy? I know someone's taking Jeremy. Comment below. That's going to take us up to the co-main event of the card. Like I said, this might be the highlight of the entire card here. Miesha Tate makes her return, taking on the very tough and underrated Marion Reneau. She's 9-7-1. I don't believe that her record is indicative of who she is as a fighter. I do believe that she's underrated. She's a very tough fighter. She ages better than some of the best of them. I mean, this girl Marion, she's 44 years old, and she doesn't look it. She doesn't fight like it. But I do think the UFC targeted her in a way as potential to get Miesha Tate back in the UFC with the victory. Obviously 4 losses in a row, but for Marion. But look who they're against: Kat Zingano, Yana Kunitskaya, Raquel Pennington, and Macy Chason. So talented fighters, but you can't go in there continuously losing fights like that. You lose in this fight right here, you're probably done. You got to probably look to hang it up. You're getting up there in age. I don't know if the UFC is going to be having you hang around like that. Miesha Tate was the champion, man. Let's not forget that, right? Miesha Tate took out Holly Holm after she was down. She was down in that fight, and she came back and she pulled off that rear naked choke. She was a wrestler, right? Since she was young, man. This girl has legit wrestling experience. She's a very tough grappler. Here's the X factor. If you guys have been watching Miesha Tate's interviews, she said that she's never been in such a solid place as far as her training goes and as far as her support goes. Her new husband, Johnny, what's his name? Johnny whatever. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. Johnny slipping my mind. Ultimate Fighter contestant. That's actually where they must have met and started training, which is kind of creepy or weird depending on how you look at it, because Miesha was training on that season with against Ronda Rousey. She's there with her boyfriend, her husband, Brian. His name's slipping my mind right now, man. Brian with the C, right? What the hell is his name? Whatever. Comment it below. You guys all know who I'm talking about, man. Her ex. They're coaching together, and this guy Johnny is on the show, and Johnny ends up stealing her, man. So I don't know the details, but it seems like they had a toxic relationship, Miesha and Brian. So it wasn't meant to be, and good for Miesha. She's at a better place in her mind now, and she has a child now. I think multiple children, and she's in her groove right now. I'm excited to see that. If she truly is at the best place she's ever been as far as fighting goes, I'm really interested to see how she looks. She's 34 years old. That's not necessarily too old, man, for a women fighter in the bantamweight division. Look at Marion, 44, a decade older. I mean, Miesha, if she's in phenomenal shape, she's getting in the proper training, we may very well see the best version that we've ever seen from Miesha. Miesha can throw down on the feet. You know damn well she could do that. You want to run back one of the more exciting fights you'll ever see in all of the UFC, or in particular in the women's divisions over there. Miesha Tate versus Kat Zingano was an absolute war. Miesha looked great in that fight, although she didn't get her hand raised. But what an absolute war that fight was. Miesha has solid hands. She got some solid pop to her punches. And I like Miesha to get her hand raised and her return to the UFC. And I'm excited to see what matchups there are for her after this victory. And maybe that's the next division I'm going to hit up. Maybe I'm going to hit up the women's bantamweight division as my next divisional breakdown episode. But I like Miesha Tate to get her hand raised here. The youth is definitely on her side, and I like her here. And the line is it's not bad. People understand that Reneau is a true threat, and the odds aren't bad. You look at the live line; she's right around a -140 right now. Is Miesha Tate? So this will take us to the main event. Like I said, guys, please do hit that like button. Please do subscribe. And if you're interested in work with me for my official plays, if you want to know my pricing, reach out to me. All my contact information is below. As always, I appreciate all you guys tuning in. It's always a pleasure for me to hop on here and for you guys to hear me out and hear my advice on these fights. We got Islam Makhachev taking on Thiago Moises. First things first, right? Let's cut to the chase. Islam is a heavy favorite in this fight. He's up as high as -750. I think that's a little crazy. Maybe not crazy. It's a little off. What do you guys think about this? Thiago Moises is a guy. Talk about guys grinding it out at American Top Team like we just talked about in Gamrot. Thiago Moises is a guy that's been putting in a lot of work at American Top Team and has been looking amazing as of recently. 3 fights in a row, took out Alexander Hernandez, Bobby Green, and Michael Johnson, all formidable opponents in the division. Thiago Moises is a jiu-jitsu player first, and all of a sudden now this guy is looking phenomenal on the feet. That's a dangerous opponent. When you got a guy that's a nasty grappler, nasty submission artist, and he can strike as well, the hands are looking quick, that could be an issue for a lot of guys in the division. Thiago Moises has been coming in phenomenal shape. We talked about the jiu-jitsu. We know what Islam Makhachev's game plan is. It's to hang on that leg, run the pipe with the singles, get you down to the mat, control you, try to sub you. He's patient on the feet. He's really trying to set up those takedowns. We saw what he just did to Drew Dober. Well, be careful if you're just trying to run the pipe and just rip Thiago down to the mat, because Thiago will be threatening submissions. We've seen Islam, drop the ball before, right? And his one lone loss. It wasn't a submission now. It was a knockout loss against Adriano Martins, but he definitely froze up in that fight. Does he ever freeze up as far as his submission defense goes? Do we see that? Do we see him maybe stick his neck somewhere where he shouldn't and Moises capitalize on it? I don't know. I want to get that out now in case that happens. That's a possibility. Thiago Moises is nasty on the mat. Of course, if there's any type of fighter that is capable of avoiding those type of submissions, and that's very cerebral and cautious in there. It's, of course, an AKA Dagestani fighter. Those guys are so polished up. Of course, I mean, these are the guys that will avoid that type of stuff. The Khabib type of fighter. And obviously, when I say the Khabib type of fighter, I mean, that's the pinnacle of those types of fighters. But all those guys, for the most part, are very disciplined, very cerebral in there. There's some exceptions, of course. You guys know I'm talking about that. What's his name? Was it Abu Bakar? I forget, one of those guys. No. Or was it the other Nurmagomedov that got subbed, right? The other Nurmagomedov got subbed. Abu Bakar Nurmagomedov, I believe. I don't know, man. I'm speaking out here crazy. I'm trying to pull all the knowledge out the back of my head. But you guys know the guy that made that mistake, the Dagestani fighter, and got subbed early in that first round against the German fighter. But other than that, for the most part, these guys are very disciplined. And I don't know. I think that Islam should be able to play it safe here and should be able to cruise his way to a victory. But Thiago Moises, dangerous striker, dangerous submission artist, guy that is really, really on the rise right now. A guy that is 15-4 as a professional. He's only 26 years old. These are the type of fighters that I tell you guys about, that we see the evolution. Thiago Moises is going to be a better fighter every time he comes out there. When Thiago Moises is 29 years old, this guy is going to be a real problem in the division. I believe that. I believe this guy is going to be a problem. He's going to be hanging around at the top 10, hanging out in the top 10. So just keep that in mind. I'm telling you guys now. So for those of you guys that think that this is just a walk in the park, I don't necessarily agree with you. We saw Damir Ismagulov use that similar type of style against him here to pull off a victory, kind of stagnate him, stalemate it and pull off the decision. Benito looked good in his fight too, but this was back in 2018, 2019. He was 24 years old at the time. He was a kid. Gonna see evolution from him. I don't think it will be enough to take out Islam. Obviously, you guys know I'm very, very high on Islam. For those of you guys that saw my divisional breakdown of the lightweight division. But I do think that minus 700 is very steep against in a fight where two of the top fighters are throwing down, and anything could happen in this fight game. So that's how I feel about that. That is going to wrap up UFC Vegas 31. Please hit that like button on your way out. Like I said, you guys all have a productive week. Get something going. Like to throw these little things out at you guys, man. Get your week going on. I want to motivate some of you guys that are listening. I'm fortunate enough that I get thousands of people, a couple thousand people listening to my voice here. Get the grind going, man, during the week. I know I'm about to get some things going on this week. Stay motivated. Stay evolving as a person. Work out. Be disciplined with your work. Enjoy your life as well. Make sure you guys are traveling and doing all this and that, and enjoying your life. All right, guys. I will catch you guys very, very soon. You can always catch me on Instagram. I'm going to continuously try to get things going on over there. I got some things going on in my life personally right now, so I'm not able to give you guys exactly what I want to give you guys as far as what my final product is over here. You're going to see a lot of evolution with my product. Like I said, working on some things here, a whole new studio, having a whole new situation where I could really just hop in the studio anytime that I want and have that all to myself, and I can just give you guys creative content, MMA content. So just keep that in mind, all right, guys? Appreciate every single one of you guys. All right, guys, you all have an amazing week. Catch you guys Saturday for UFC Vegas 31. Signing out. Teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.